Okay, I think we should be coming through loud and clear now. I'm just gonna wait. Yep, beautiful, it's working. Good evening, everyone. We're gonna be talking about whether or not Ethereum can scale in time and some of these other chains that are starting to see some good volumes and I guess capture a bit of market share. So hopefully that is of interest to you. Uranium Finance did get hacked today or last night in Australia. We're a little bit ahead. Cardano Africa deal. Yeah, we're going to touch on that. I've mentioned it a few times how Cardano, we're going to have a bit of a focus in Africa. Binance Smart Chain block size too massive for sustainability. Blockchain size, I think you mean. So the fact that they've got a block every, is it 3 seconds instead of 15 or 1 second, whatever it is. Yeah, you obviously have a blockchain that ends up being 5 times as big, 7 times as big. So that is an issue. They've had a lot of issues recently. BSC is just hated on by ETH maxis. Respect competition. Yeah, I speak about all layer ones, and I own a lot of the layer ones. I certainly don't just own Ethereum. Solana is another one that's making a lot of waves recently. All right, very good. Wow, very good quality comments tonight, guys. I like it. I like it. Elrond tokens came out last night. I thought Elrond tokens were already out. Do you mean something else, Jaron? Or okay, right. We'll get into it. We've got nearly 500 watching, 88 likes. We'll get that up over 100, and we'll get into it. Most promising coin. I gave a bit of a brand new narrative that I'm looking out for. It's narratives that we like to invest in, and then narrow it down to projects. If you can't pick one, pick the best few projects within that narrative. Where do you find regulation info in Australia? Well, it depends what you want. If you want, tax info, you go to the ATO website. Blockchain Australia website has links to all the regs. The RedFOX virtual world launch was very cool, so we'll have a look at that just really quickly, and then we'll get into everything else. I might mention the mining thing as well, because that was very cool. But for those that haven't seen, RedFOX Virtual World, they've gone the other end of the spectrum, so they've gone really high end. So this is as good as graphics as you can get on the Unreal Engine, full high definition real time render, versus Decentraland, which are not too fussed about graphics at this stage. They're just trying to build out a big space, and they'll improve their graphics later on down the line. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Head over to the RedFOX website, and soon you'll be able to stake your RFOX to get the VFOX, and before you know it, you'll be shopping in a virtual world to buy stuff for the real world. So, I mean, this I guess does tie into the conversation a bit. All these sort of projects are going to need scaling. RedFOX is one I've already got some slides for actually, because they are multi-chain. So obviously you can't do everything on Ethereum at the moment when you've got this much stuff, I guess, happening in your project. So a lot of the rendering and all that isn't on a blockchain, for example. So there's bits and pieces that should be on a blockchain and shouldn't, and that's still what I guess projects are experimenting with. Okie dokie, so let's get into it. So look, here's the first chart we'll have a look at. This is Binance Smart Chain active addresses going from basically zero back in, this is just behind me, so you won't be able to see it too clearly, but back in September last year, it's zero, then it just skyrockets and surpasses Ethereum. The next one here, transactions, it's past Ethereum. So look, it's yeah, look, there's always a few if, buts, and maybes, and you can argue about, well, where's that traffic coming from? Some people say that it's, fake bots, and we had that problem a lot with like Tron and EOS. Remember when they were claiming that they had, 9 of the top 10 dApps were on Tron and EOS, and Ethereum had one of them, and they were all sort of gambling apps, and because they have free transactions, you can just set up bots to play each other, to play games and stuff. So looking back on that now, did anyone really care, or should you have invested because EOS had 4 of the top 10 apps? Do you know what I mean? You can sort of fudge these things a little bit. So it's just something to be aware of. But there's no doubt, those of you that have used Binance Smart Chain, it is, it's faster, it's smoother. It's just a copy and paste of Ethereum that's sped up a little bit, and it has less nodes, so it's more centralized. And that's why it's faster, and it does the same things. So hats off to, I don't mind experimentation and competition, and it's healthy. And if that at the end of the day is the best way to do things and it wins, then so be it. But I do think that we're going to go back to the importance of decentralization sooner or later. WowSwap is another one that's launched on Polygon, which I'm going to talk about towards the end, because they are absolutely killing it lately. Matic. Cake flipping Uniswap. So once again, talking about some of these other chains or dApps on other chains that are the, I guess, equivalent of, Uniswap and Ethereum. Are they going to take all the volume? Just like we saw SushiSwap compete with Uniswap, well, now the competition is coming from other blockchains. So it's actually really easy to use, and I'm sure some of you have never used PancakeSwap, but you have used Uniswap, and it's honestly as easy as opening up your wallet, your MetaMask, and just clicking from that drop-down menu and changing the chain that you're on. So you've got all the Ethereum testnets, but then you just select Binance Smart Chain. Now, we're going to get into this conversation later, but as you can see here, I've got Arbitrum, XDAI, Matic. So this is where you select the Ethereum sidechains or layer 2s when you're going to interact with them. So in a lot of ways, Binance Smart Chain, it's actually almost the same as XDAI, but then it has the branding and it has CZ out there tweeting and whatnot. So it just depends how you spin it. But this is why they're able to just make it a one-click thing in MetaMask, because it is just basically a copy and paste of Ethereum that's sped up, and that's what XDAI is. They made it that way, so it was a faster version of Ethereum. So there you go. It's funny how branding and all that sort of thing works as well. This is what I said before about watching where the traffic was coming from, to Binance and whatnot. So some of these websites are kind of known for, getting clicks and affiliates and steering traffic for vanity metrics, probably is the way to put it. Anyway, so Ethereum, can it scale in time? We've had the Berlin hard fork. It's now live. It had a few optimizations, and hey, this week we saw gas drop down to 40, maybe 30, after it's been at 100, 300 for ages. So hey, gas did come down. Those efficiencies have worked somewhat. Now this is we've got another hard fork coming up, and this is the next one is basically has to happen because the Ice Age is programmed into Ethereum so that block times get bigger and bigger and slower, and it's almost like setting a goalpost in future saying we have to have a new upgrade ready to go by this date, otherwise the blockchain gets slower and slower, and then you've got to at least do an upgrade to kick back the Ice Age, even if the actual update itself isn't ready. And so the whole idea of the Ice Age initially was to move away from proof of work, because you get rid of like block times and difficulty. So this is based on difficulty going exponential. But once you go to proof of stake, you don't have proof of work mining and difficulty anymore. So that's, I guess, the basic concept behind it. So the next hard fork is going to have ERP 1559, where everyone's excited about burning the fees and making Ethereum more scarce than Bitcoin. So it's going to have a better stock to flow, lower inflation. It's going to be more scarce. I think people are going to get really excited about that narrative. But yeah, this is the London hard fork, and it will also include those changes that we just spoke about to delay the difficulty bomb. But they are talking about, since we started to have a bit of a fight with the miners, they are talking about trying to really bring forward proof of stake, the transition to proof of stake, and bring it into this next update, this merge. So that's pretty ambitious. That's just the specs on ERP 1559 I touched on. That's a good article if you want to read more about what the Berlin hard fork did in terms of those specific changes for those of you that are techies. Now, one other thing I do want to mention about is this miner extracted value. So a lot of the reason that people are saying that gas went down is because we've had so many bots and front running, and JP and I discussed this in our interview the other day with Thorchain. But now we've almost got bots attacking the bots that are trying to front run. And so those bots gave up, and now we've got a lot less bots on the network. Gas fees have gone down. And miner extracted value, in a nutshell, is just the fact that miners get to choose the order of transactions. And so if they can see what is coming, they can front run transactions on dexes and trades. We've now got perpetual like futures, Bitcoin and Ether futures trading on decentralized protocols. And if you can see someone's about to make a big trade, it's almost like as a miner, you're the exchange, you're the flash bots, the flash boys. You get to front run that. And so there's ways around that the Ethereum developers know about. They're working on it. It's not going to be a problem forever. So this is the speed up of the merger to get rid of proof of work, and talking about July. So let's see if that does go ahead. But then the whole transition to Ethereum 2.0 is going to take a very long time, 2 years, maybe 3 years, until we've got like everything out there. I've spoken about the best ways. We've already got the beacon chain going, so there's a number of ways you can actually start to stake your ETH and get those rewards. If you do it the genuine way in the real contract, you can't withdraw your Ethereum. That's the catch for now. But there are ways, I guess, around that, or services that people offer, everything from centralized to decentralized ways to still, I guess, get involved with that and get some rewards. I've also done a video called Ethereum 2.0 Explained, or something like that, and that really goes into more detail about the 4 phases of the Ethereum blockchain moving to proof of stake, sharding the network, so breaking it up into smaller pieces, and then we've got to transition a lot of the contracts, smart contracts and dApps over. Now, some of them will stay on the old Ethereum, and that'll still be running with the new Ethereum, and then the old Ethereum will become one of the shards when we have this big sharded blockchain broken up into smaller pieces. I'll take some questions in that at the end, guys, but I'm going to keep powering through. So one other thing I think this has got in its favor is everyone's ESG, environmentally conscious, talking about climate change. Look, whether or not you believe in it, there's a lot of money that's now being invested or forced to almost be invested based on this. And so let's say if there's an ESG ETF or fund, the fact that Ethereum is going proof of stake, that might be one reason they can invest in Ethereum. And so that's pretty cool. Now, at the moment, Bitcoin's kind of been attacked again for being wasteful, but I actually think if you really dive deep, a lot of the Bitcoin miners are renewable. I really hope we get to a place where Bitcoin is 100% renewable powered, and then Bitcoin can also become part of all these ESG funds. It just gives it another, I guess, tick in the box and less of an attack surface, because governments are going to start to look at any way to attack this. And if they can say it's harmful, to the environment, or it uses too much energy, anything like that, as long as we have a good rebuttal saying, well, no, it's actually not, and no, it's not wasting energy because it's coming from all these new renewable sources that we've created. So you've just got to sort of, the honey badger will make itself stronger, but be ready for those attacks that are coming. Okay, so let's rewind back in the day to the first hard fork. Or not the first hard fork, but Ethereum's emergency hard fork that created Ethereum Classic. And this is, a few years ago, I started predicting that this is going to become really contentious between the miners, and that's what we've just seen the past few months. And that Ethereum Classic can say, hey, if you're a miner, you've paid for all your hardware, come over and mine on Ethereum Classic. We're going to stay proof of work. And so I don't think we've seen the last of all the FUD and the noise. And just remember that Grayscale, so Barry Silbert, who has Grayscale, they've got a lot of money. They've got a whole fund around Ethereum Classic. They own CoinDesk, digital currency group. They were some of the biggest drivers around Ethereum Classic and pushing it to survive and remain a coin. When 90% of the community just thought Ethereum was going to hard fork to fix itself and move on, no one really thought there was going to be two coins. And so here we go. Can we go to a weekly chart? No, it does not want to let me. We're going way back to 2016 when this happened, and this is the price. Like Ethereum Classic for 1 or 2 days here was trading at 50 cents to the dollar. So it was, half the price of Ethereum. That's crazy to think about now. And a lot of people were confused. They didn't know what was going on. But ever since then, it's just been a slow bleed. Obviously, Ethereum has just come along in leaps and bounds, and Ethereum Classic, most people wouldn't be able to name one app that's on there, or their lead developer fund ran out of money. I'm really surprised. If Grayscale didn't have such a vested interest, Ethereum Classic would have died off, put it that way. So I'm waiting to see. They've got big bags. They're going to try and pump some life into this some way, and now is the perfect time that try and get all the miners on your side. Okay, that's something that's going to happen near term. Now, the difference between a hard fork, where they're saying, no, we don't want those changes, we believe that no changes should be made to the set of rules that is Ethereum, and a different client is the same set of rules, but you can have a different version of that. So it's a little bit like saying you've got to write the code for Facebook on your iPhone versus your Android. It's the same app, it's the same set of rules, but it's on a different kind of, computing device. So that's what these different clients are that you might have heard of. And it's actually really good that we have different types, and you want people running different types. They're all running the same rules, supporting the same information, but they're just implementing it in a slightly different way. And when we've had bugs in one, it's been great because all the others are running smoothly. So it's just another way to, diversify and spread out risk. CoinMarketCap. I was going to show you some of those Ethereum Classic prices, but you've already seen those now, so that's all right. Okay. So next up, let's talk about the actual types of scaling and where we are. So DYDX have got their layer 2 perpetual swaps live now, and they're using Starkware. So this is one of those ZK snark style technologies that are using ZK rollups. The other type is optimistic rollups, and this is getting into some really complicated stuff, but they've managed to roll this out. And Starkware is one of the best companies here. They've also worked with Diversify, so you've got a decentralized exchange, a DEX that's using this. And most people are still not aware that these projects even exist. The other option is for something like USDC that's on Ethereum, and they say, well, we're going to go to another chain. Now, you got to remember that that's different. So using another blockchain, so Tether as well as USDC, it's on Tron, it's on Algorand, it's on multiple blockchains. And if both exchanges have Tron Tether, you can send Tron, to each other. And then when you actually want to use it on Ethereum, you can go and use that chain. So that's different, a token being on multiple chains versus these sort of layer 2s or actual side chains. StakeNet is another one here. The StakeNet DEX has actually got Raiden incorporated directly into it. I think I've shown you this before. Is there a good photo here? Products. It should have a photo of the core wallet. And this has got Raiden directly embedded into it. No, I don't have a photo for you. Yeah, here we go. So this is like the Lightning Network as they're calling it. The Raiden network is the Lightning Network of Ethereum. So you're going to see more and more of these things get integrated to the point where hopefully you don't even know that you're using it. It's just the technology that's under the surface. They're the different types of layer 2s. I've already touched on these. Look, just quickly, so roll-ups are basically like batching a lot of information, rolling it all up into one. An optimistic roll-up is basically you're being optimistic that the sidechain or that DApp, that technology, those nodes that are running it, are telling the truth, and then you sort of have a challenge period. ZK roll-ups are a way that you can actually prove it in a scaled fashion straight away. So this has about, I think about 500 off the top of my head, 500 to 1,000 times scalability. This is huge scalability without any of all those other changes that we're waiting for and looking forward to. State channels are like Raiden. Plasma is Amisa Go. This is some of those ZK technologies we touched on. Side chains like XDAI, and then some hybrids of both. So Raiden, there it is. Loopring. Okay, so Loopring Exchange, once you've gone to the layer 2 wallet and you're on the layer 2 version of your wallet, you can go between apps that both have this technology. So this is the Loopring wallet, and then I can go over to the ZK Sync wallet and send my coins from there to there. So it's really cool. I'd encourage you to have a play around with this stuff. OMG network, so they've got ETH and ERC20 tokens on this side blockchain that's like a proof of stake chain. You can have your own rules, you can have your own nodes. You are putting your trust in those people that are running the network though, and you can sort of exit and I guess challenge if you feel like there's been a mistake is the way to think about that. Now they're trying to work with central banks, probably more of a centralized one, I guess you would say. But I still think it's a good technology, and that each of these are going to find their place. Optimism, it's the one that everyone is waiting for. They're working with some of the biggest names like Synthetics. Optimism recently announced they might have a bit of a delay, but Synthetics announced that, they're still on track to implement Optimism into their smart contracts. So that is really cool to hear. Matter Labs, another one. ZK rollups we just touched on. XDAI, so this is a side chain that I just mentioned before, like a sped up proof of stake version of Ethereum is the way to think about that. Connects network, so these are sort of trying to connect these different blockchains as you see here. More of an Ethereum focus, so a multi-chain Ethereum, cross-chain liquidity network as they're saying, between Ethereum virtual machine compatible chains and layer 2 systems. So they're trying to connect them all to talk to each other. You don't want liquidity and information sort of fragmented in these different chains that can't talk to each other. Off-chain labs, so this is Arbitrum. This is another one that Uniswap was playing around with. So they're using roll-ups as well. They've got channels and side chains coming. So this is where we start to get into what Matic is doing. But just quickly, the Aussie guys, Immutable X, Robbie and I did the interview where we spoke all about this. So this is like free zero gas transactions, zero gas minting of NFTs, 9,000 transactions per second. It's not a centralized sidechain. It supports ERC20 and NFT style tokens. So very, very, very cool stuff from those guys there. Check out that interview I did with Robbie if you want more details about all of this, but it truly is amazing. God's Unchained is already using this as well. All right, so Matic has been on fire lately. They've rebranded to Polygon, and look, I like the change because it did fit with an actual fundamental change. So rather than just being, they used to be a bit of a hybrid. So they were a proof of stake chain and Plasma. But now they're trying to be that internet of blockchains, very, very similar to what we just touched on before with Connect's network. So they're saying, hey, if you're within this Ethereum ecosystem, we want to help you scale, whether it's using, any of these technologies. We're happy to try and use roll-ups or whatever one is sort of best suited for you. And that's the point they want to get to, where they're using all of them, as well as, integrating with Polkadot, Cosmos, forks of Ethereum. So they want to help everyone scale and be interoperable with Ethereum. And that's why, the branding wise, they're still, I guess, calling themselves an Ethereum scaling technology. Aave rolled out on Polygon recently. And so it's a new implementation. So now the Aave app, or it's just software, it's a set of rules, and now that Aave app exists on Ethereum and on Polygon. And if you go over and tinker with it and play with it on Polygon, it's faster, it has less fees. And so can we get to the point where it's so user friendly? People should be able to just make that click in MetaMask, but we do need to even abstract that away at the end of the day, ultimately, don't we? So more and more of these projects making the move so they can be live on, Binance Smart Chain and Polygon. Polkadot is the one that's really popular at the moment, Polkadot and Polygon. So as you can see here, they show you that, you've literally just got to click on Matic Network in your MetaMask and you're away. Now, the other options here are bridges between chains. So this is the bridge between Wax and Ethereum. So you've got the Wax token on Wax, and then you've got Wax E on Ethereum. And you can do a transaction, but it's really expensive if you're using Ethereum because of on-chain fees at the moment. This is RedFOX Labs have helped work with Rootstock, which is the smart contract layer on Bitcoin, to build a bridge. So now you can have, your RedFOX token on Ethereum and change it over to Rootstock mainnet. And so you've got RFOX, Rootstock RFOX, and it's a token that lives on this smart contract layer on Bitcoin. And then RedFOX are going to help them do this with NFTs. So we can have, NFTs on Bitcoin. We can have all these stable coins on Bitcoin. Again, with Bitcoin having a 10-minute block time and high fees, doesn't really make sense to use Bitcoin for all those reasons, but it is possible. Now, Cosmos, they're definitely interoperability. That's always been their aim. An ecosystem, a cosmos of different blockchains and apps that are all interconnected. Trying to go for the decentralization that way. And then we've got projects or protocols like Thorchain that are just trying to help liquidity. So they're trying to help liquidity from different protocols. They're not trying to help, I guess, smart contracts or dApps from different protocols, or even whole blockchains talk to each other. They're just trying to help, liquidity and traders get those tokens from different chains. So hopefully this has kind of been a bit of a walkthrough about interoperability, side chains versus layer 1 scaling, but proof of stake versus layer 2s, those ecosystems where you're talking between blockchains versus talking between dApps versus just talking between sources of liquidity within those different dApps. The different styles of scaling for Ethereum. Yeah, we've covered a lot there, and the history of Ethereum Classic and why I think there's a bit of a fight on our hands going forward. But I will say a big thank you to Mark. You're a legend. Keep posting. Best in the game. Well, thank you very much, mate. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. I don't want to have a late night. But hopefully that one was very educational. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. Cheers.